Al-Halaqi voices appreciation for Iran's stand in solidarity with Syria and its army and people in their struggle against the armed terrorist groups. An information source says that the elements protecting Minnegh Airport in Aleppo are safe and sound, and the terrorist gangs have sustained big losses inside and outside the airport. Al-Maliki warns against the danger of the terrorist gangs on Syria. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Irado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. Prime Minister Dr. Wael Al-Halaqi has affirmed the steady stand of the Iranian foreign policy towards Syria. In a statement after his return from Tehran, following his participation in the ceremony held on the occasion of the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani taking office, Al-Halaqi said Iran appreciated the sacrifices and steadfastness of the Syrian Arab army and people in the face of the armed terrorist groups. An information source has affirmed that the elements protecting Minnegh Airport in Aleppo are all safe and sound, and the terrorist gangs have sustained big losses around and inside the airport. The source added that the airport is void of military equipment and aircraft. He added that the heroes of the armed forces at the airport and in the region surrounding it are courageously fighting the terrorists. In Homs, our armed forces continue to advance in Bab Houd neighborhood in the city. They intercepted an attempt by a terrorist gang to infiltrate in the direction of Al-Walidiyya school in the area, killing and wounding several armed men. In the governorate's suburbs, the army destroyed a missile launching podium near Al-Makramiya village in Al-Mishrfe district. It was used by the terrorists to launch missiles against Homs. Several terrorists were eliminated during the operation. The army also targeted armed men's hideouts in Beit al-Rashid farm in Talbise, Al-Husn town, Al-Zara farms in Talkalakh suburbs, Kisin village in Al-Rastan suburbs, and Taldo in Al-Hula countryside, killing and wounding several terrorists. In Daraa suburbs, our armed forces killed and wounded several terrorists after targeting their hideouts and gatherings in Tsil, Tafas, Shabraq, Al-Abdali, Busra al-Sham, Al-Hrak, Mzayrib, Al-Harra and Nawa. They destroyed their weapons and criminal tools. The army also dismantled 2 explosive devices, 5 landmines and a number of armored shells downtown Daraa. The Syrian community in the USA has organized an activity on the occasion of the Syrian Arab Army Day and in appreciation of the army's sacrifices and achievements, during which they raised the biggest Syrian flag in the countries of expatriation that was 230 meters long. A large number of the Syrian community took part in the activity, which was held in the city of Allentown in the state of Pennsylvania in the USA, together with a number of supporters with Syria from all American states. The participants toured the streets of the city, hoisting the Syrian flag and shouting national slogans that denounced the terrorism that threatens Syria's security and stability. A number of participants affirmed that their participation in this activity confirms their adherence to Syria and its leader and army. They asserted that terrorism has nothing to do with freedom and democracy, expressing deep appreciation for the Syrian Arab Army's sacrifices and their hope that security and stability would be restored across Syria. report revealed the difficult conditions of the displaced Syrians, a thing that reaffirms the reality of the refugee camps that are based on political exploitation and trafficking.
No longer is a secret the reality of the Turkish and Jordanian camps that were erected along the borders with Syria under the pretext of providing safe haven and shelter for the Syrians whom the terrorist armed groups forced to leave their country. Clear evidence was provided revealing the extent of hypocrisy and exploitation suffered by those displaced. Today, this evidence was enhanced by a report issued by the United Nations itself. From simmering to the point of collapse is the title of the United Nations report, which revealed the details of the tragedies of displaced Syrians seeking to escape from the camps run by the United Nations itself, where women lack security and the boys suffer from attempts of recruitment to fight with the terrorist armed groups, especially in the refugee camp of Al-Zatari on the Jordanian border, which lacks, according to the report, the simplest needs of living, as the assistance is stolen while the criminal networks of trafficking in women are rampant, involving camp keepers and under the eyes of the Jordanian police. The report described the recruitment of boys in their 15 and 16 years of age to fight with the terrorists in Syria instead of encouraging them to go to schools. The report uncovered the truth of these camps, which turned to become real prisons.
Iran has arrested a spy working as an agent for Israel in the governorate of Kerman, southeast of the country. Head of Iran's Revolutionary Court in Kerman said the spy was working in trade in Southeast Asia, and while he was on a trip pretending that he was a tourist to Thailand, he gave information about Iran to an intelligence officer at the Israeli embassy in Bangkok. The Iranian official pointed out that the detainee was planning to gather information in the fields of economy, geography and mining in Kerman to present it to the liaison Israeli agent, but he was arrested before doing so. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has warned against the danger of the terrorist gangs who threaten Syria's unity and social components. In a statement published on his website, al-Maliki called for recruiting all potentials in order to defeat the project that aims at planting sedition in the region. He affirmed that the Iraqis will confront the terrorists and all those who cooperate with them. Welcome back. Cairo Airport authorities have arrested 2 Al-Qaeda terrorists upon their arrival from Turkey. They had 4 suitcases full of Al-Qaeda flags, guns, military uniforms and binoculars, in addition to faked passports and a currency forging device. On the other hand, Egyptian official sources ruled out any change in the country's policy, which was started on the 3rd of last July, or any alternative to the step of getting the Muslim Brotherhood supporters stop their sit-in. The sources affirmed the need to implement the roadmap outlined following the June 30th revolution. The sources added that Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Defense Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has notified American Deputy Secretary of State William Burns that Egypt will not budge from its stand in pursuing the march of democracy. The Iraqi army carried out a large-scale operation called Revenge for the Martyrs against the terrorist groups near the Syrian border, arresting terrorists that were trying to smuggle machine guns into Syria. During the operation, 3 of Al-Qaeda hideouts were destroyed and more than 200 terrorists were arrested. The operation also resulted in the seizure of 59 cars that were intended to be planted with explosives, while 8 car bombs were defused. The Iraqi army also discovered a cache of weapons that contained more than 100 mortar shells and destroyed 200 tons of chemicals. Iraqi army also killed 9 of the leaders of the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. Finally, in Yemen, 4 terrorists from Al-Qaeda were killed in a raid by a drone plane in the region of Ma'rib, east of Sana'a. Yemeni sources said that an American drone fired 4 missiles and destroyed a car carrying the 4 terrorists, killing them all. The New York Times said that U.S. drones, which are launching raids in several countries, take off from an airbase used by the CIA in Saudi Arabia, which allowed the CIA to use it under one condition, that the U.S. administration keep the secrecy of its work there. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.